All right, guys, we are in Epic Games Launcher, which is a game system almost like Steam, if you're not familiar with it. Inside that, you can download Unreal Engine and learn how to do your own game programming, which is what I've been playing with for the last year and a half, 2 years, give or take, ever since I teased a friend of mine with a test build of a little tiny village, which is the village we're going to be working on today. Let's see. I am in the Epic Games Launcher. I'm in the library portion of it, which it controls your documents and your files. If you go to Marketplace, that's where you can buy and download assets that other people have created. Just for example, I'll go into the free content. Epic Games gives away a lot of free packages all the time, which are asset packs, their effects packs, their mannequin packs, they're all kinds of stuff. So if you're getting into this, look into it seriously. I mostly have collected things that give me items that I'm going to use in the world. And every month they give away free content. So it's definitely something to look at when you go here to free, go free for the month. And for the month of July, they're giving away over $400 worth of content creation materials. It gives you a toolkit for point-and-click adventures. It gives you video effects. It gives you assets for Wild West towns, and it's unlimited. And there's a bunch of other free content that I will not go into about. But as you can see, I have two different versions of the engine loaded, which is 4.27.2, which is the final version of 4.27, I believe. Let me double check that before I say something correct. Yes, I believe that is. Okay. I don't want to install 4.26 because that's becoming obsolete. So I have 4.272 installed and 5.03. Unreal Engine 5 is a game-changing thing for the industry because it uses a process called nanites, where you can have super huge detailed terrains and items and things like that that have millions of, they call them tries, millions of tries in each asset or each section of the world, and it doesn't run any slower than 4.27 did. So I'm going to be playing in Unreal Engine 5, and we're going to see what we can do to build the world of Nargenstal, which is a little sleepy village. Let me get that on the screen here real quick. You see on the screen right now the village of Nargenstal, which is from the RPG by Kobold Press called The Raven's Call. What I'm going to do is attempt to rebuild this village in Unreal Engine and make it a playable world. That's my goal. And if I could do this, it's going to mean a cool thing for a lot of different RPG companies because they can have people work on this kind of detail. All right, so we have the village of Nargenstal. It's just a small village. As you can see, the footage is not huge. It's probably 500 to 750 feet across the longest point, gauging by the scale. So it's just a tiny village. It's going to be something fairly simple to work on. I tried earlier to do the city of Zobak in a private project, but it got to be unruly because that is monstrous. And I was overwhelmed with the information trying to figure out how to do things because I do not know Unreal Engine. So the process of teaching myself, the process of creating the world and getting all these things set up and learning how to make materials and things like that was just too much when I had that huge of a project. So during my break of the last few months, I've sat down and determined I'm going to start small in every project, including Blender, Unreal Engine, and I don't know if you know, but I do the work for Fantasy Grounds for Kobold Press. So I'm an active developer for them too on that end. So I've been really busy. I've had some trouble with my YouTube account. People have been in there leaving really nasty comments. I'm sure they're bots, but it really takes a toll on a person after a while. But anyway, that's all over with. I'm ready to rock and roll. I had to get everything squared away mentally and physically, and now I'm ready to play. So what we're going to do is get this moving. And just so you know, I've collected probably 300 of the free items that they have given away over the last 3 or 4 years. I have not used a lot of them, but they're here if I should ever choose to do something of that. So just you know, that's where I got all my content. I didn't buy everything. I think I bought one pack so far. All right, so I want to go ahead and add a couple things to Unreal Engine, my current project. So I'm going to go down through here, and I have a place called Medieval Villages. And unfortunately, there's no way to very easily sort through these, or to, you know, do a search and find it that way, because I don't know what the names are of these by any means. But here's the project I want to add. I want to add Fantasy Medieval Project, and I want to add it to Nargenstal 5.01. That is the current one I'm working on. So we're going to add that to the project, and you'll see it's going to download it. These do not stay resident on your system the entire time. So anytime you add them to a project, it downloads it to your computer, and then it has all the assets it needs to work with that particular pack. That's another mistake I made when I was working with the large project where I tried to build Zobek. I had added probably 16 or 17 content packs, and Unreal slowed down to a crawl because I was using the old version and I had way too many assets to actually make the system run smoothly. And a lot of the stuff is not optimized. So it's probably something you're going to see me do along the line too, is try to figure out how to optimize some of the objects. And let's see, did that add it? It's being difficult. Add to project. Okay, it's already in the project. Got it. All right, so there's a couple more I want to add. They are grass and material landscapes. Nah, I don't want that one. Let's see. I'm just going to quick scan through a lot of these things to see if there's anything I need right at this moment, because I can always add stuff to this. Right now, I'm mostly going to be working on the environment, because I have to set up the world and get the landscape put in, everything. We'll put modular fantasy house in there just for giggles, because those give me the Wattle and Daub style buildings. A lot of them are building pieces for it, so it makes it a lot easier to do things. Don't think I need anything else for this point. Yeah, that should be good for now. All right, so what I've done, as you see, I've already created the Nargenstal project. It's showing a blank image here because I don't have a world specifically set up yet. So I already have this open, so I'm going to switch over to Unreal, which I already had open in my project. All I've done so far is set up a few folders inside of Unreal that says My Stuff, which is where I'm going to keep all my textures, my meshes. It's going to contain everything that I'm using with the project. So anything that I create that I use with the project. Let me correct that. I've also included the third person template is the world I chose when I built the project. Let me show you how that works. Okay, when you launch 5.03, it'll come up with a template. It's probably going to give me an error because I already have 5.03 open. But this takes a while to launch, so that's why I did not show it on screen. And I'll pause the video here until the main loading screen comes up. All right, guys, we are back into the Unreal Engine project browser. So this is where you could create all your projects, your architecture. A lot of people use this for ArcViz, or architectural visualizations, which are snapshots of a specific room or a house or something like that. They use it for automotive product design and manufacturing. They use it for everything. Unreal is a fantastic program for a lot of stuff. And if you choose to use Unity, more power to you. Unity is a dog I have not chosen to attack because it focuses more on a lot of coding, and I'm not a coder. I've tried over and over and over throughout the last 30 years to learn coding, and my brain just cannot wrap around a lot of the processes. So I've chosen Unreal Engine. So when you get started, you're going to hit Games, and then you could choose from a completely blank world with no mannequins, no anything, and it's just a blank black screen when you start. You could choose a first-person template, which is a lot of first-person shooters. You could do a third-person, which I've chosen to do. You could do top-down, vehicle, handheld, AR, virtual reality. So I don't have a VR set, and I don't know how to program VR, so we're not going to do that. But third-person template, you just do that. You choose Blueprint. Otherwise, you can code if you want to. in C++. I have no desire to code, so we're going to use the blueprint function. And I'm going to program it for a desktop computer, because programming for mobile phones and things like that really takes a lot of computing power that I unfortunately do not want to, and brain power that I do not want to tackle. So we're going to go with maximum quality, and we're going to include starter content, which is the basic stuff that they give you for free. They'll give you a test level. They'll give you some assets and some textures that are free. Comes with Unreal Engine. Ray tracing we do not need, because ray tracing is replaced by lumens in Unreal Engine 5. Then you name your project and choose where you want it to save, and you go from there. Now, I've already done this, so I'm just going to exit out of there and exit out of there. And I'm going to start Nargenstal 5.01. Now, that should be Nargenstal 5.03 because I recently updated to 5.03, but I know it's there, so we're good. And you cannot have spaces in any of the names, just so you know. You use underscores. Otherwise, Unreal Engine will not save things. Okay, and this is the third-person template, blank world, that they give you to start out with. I have chosen to do a few other things, and to get into my content tray, which is where my assets and things are located, I'm going to hit Control Space and bring up my content drawer. Now, this is where my entire project is broken down in a visual format, where I can choose all of these different things to work with. Like, I have some Unreal Sensei. He's a YouTuber. I have some of his assets in here because he has a landscape material that I have not been successful in getting to work yet, which is an insanely powerful landscape material. It automatically changes from grass to rock to snow as you climb elevations. And I'm still working on figuring out how that all works, but he has done it for you and shared, so I snatched it up from a project he was doing. Anyway, back to my stuff. I've created a folder called My Maps. This is where I'm going to store all of the levels that I create for Midgard. Basically, I can do Nargenstal, I can do Castle Orzelberg, which you guys have seen a post on me building the 3D models for it. I eventually would like to do a lot of the different worlds. And hopefully, if I get good enough at this, I can go ahead and put all the different worlds. I can start working for other companies, building their worlds in 3D. So anyway, first of all, since I work with Kobold, I'm going to stay true to Kobold and start building their little stuff. And it's all trial and error. No, nothing is commissioned. It's just I want to try and learn more about 3D and 3D game engines. So anyway, back to where I was. I'm sorry I digress constantly. Okay, so I need to create a few more folders in here. I'm going to create a folder by right-clicking, calling it New Folder, and we're going to call it My _ Materials. That way I know if I'm trying to search where a material is located, I know it's in my project, not someone else's project. Because any content pack I add, which I showed you in my library, those add another folder to the process. Because I added Fantasy Village, you can see it's right here, Fantasy Village. All the assets that's contained in that pack are contained there. So I'm doing the same thing with my project. I'm going to call it My Materials. I'm going to create another one called My _ I can't type, Meshes, which is where all my static meshes, which are models, are going to be. And I need one for My Textures, which is what adds the color to the models. So we're going to go ahead and put one of them in. All right, so we've got that set up. Now we need to create a level. And I'm going to bring this back down so it's out of my way. Switch over to this folder and open it up. You can see I've already created Nargenstal. I had done a little bit of prep work prior to starting the video. So I'm going to start a brand new level so you can see how it's done. Again, this is not a project that is anything that's going to be on any time constraints. I'm going to take my time with it and make sure it does very, very nice and neat projection. So anyway, go ahead and start a new level by right-clicking, select level. I'm going to name it. I'm just going to name it Test, so I know it's different than my major one. And we're going to open it up. And it says, do you want to create it in your game, my stuff, my maps, blah, blah, blah. Yes, I do want to create it there. So it's going to go ahead and create everything it needs to do. And you can see my screen went completely black. That is because there's no lighting, there's no post-process volume, and there's no landscape in this world. So what we need to do is come over here, create a new folder, call it lighting, and working inside that folder, whoops, I don't want to rename it. Working inside that folder, we're going to add in some information. So we're going to bring in a directional light, which represents the sun, and you just click and drag. Then we're going to bring in visual effects, a post-process volume. We are going to bring in a sky and atmosphere. Whoop, wrong one. Let's delete that. Grab the wrong asset. Visual effects and sky atmosphere is what we want, which you see the sky appeared. Now we're going to bring in exponential height fog, which will get rid of the ugly black on the bottom. And we're going to bring in, let's see, I've got my height fog, I've got my volumetric cloud, I've got my sky atmosphere. I think I've got everything there. So this is the basic lighting setup that you want to use for a basic Unreal Engine world. And you move these just like you do in 3D. You select them, and then you can move them, scale them, do whatever you need to do. But these are things that are going to be static in the world. You don't need to do anything with them except for the post-process volume. Post-process volume, you need to go into its settings over here. With it selected, you want to go over here to way down on the bottom. It's going to show, if I can find it, infinite extent unbound, which means you do not have to have this volume absolutely huge to encompass your entire world for the post-processing to affect it. That's a cool thing that Unreal Engine has done. So we're going to tick it. So now this post-process volume can stay that size at all times, and everything in the world is going to be affected by the post-processing we learn how to do. So just something I figured out. And watching a lot of videos like I do with Unreal Sensei. He's awesome for teaching how to use Unreal Engine. And Unreal Engine has its own online learning stuff, which I have not tackled yet. But anyway, that's all the lighting you need to set up a world. So we're going to go ahead and zoom out by scrolling. And we're going to move all of these things up because they kind of get in the way unless you're familiar with working with Unreal Engine. I'm going to move this one over and up. And then this one over and up because it kind of gets in the way when you're sculpting. So I tend to put them off to the side where they're not going to affect anything. So that's as far as I've gone in my other version of the level. So I'm going to go ahead and just save this. I'll probably delete it later, but we're going to save it. And then I'm going to switch over to my other level where I've already started working, which is my Nargenstal level. Same process here. I've got those 4 things. And that's all I've done. Actually, correction, 5 things. And that's all I've done. So we're going to close our content drawer so it's out of the way. And then we're going to go in and add a landscape. So we need to go, if I can find it, go to landscape mode. There we go. And you'll see it's given us a grid. That's the make-believe world or make-believe land that Unreal Engine designs for you until you get all of these settings set exactly the way you want. Now, you can create a completely blank world, which is what I'm going to do, or you can import what is called a height map, which will give you the mountains, the details, the bumps. That is something I do not have files available for this, so I'm going to be crafting from scratch. So you can assign a master material to fit the entire world, but I don't want to do that, because I'm going to be using the master material I mentioned earlier. And you can specify all of your different sizes. There is very specific documentation on the internet from Unreal Engine that helps you set these items depending on the size of the world and how many chunks you need to have, how many components, how many sections. It gives you all that information. I'm just going to use the default because I can always edit it later and get rid of it. So I'm just going to go ahead and fit world. And then actually, no, I don't want to do that because I just hit the wrong button. So let me close out of this real quick. And we're going to go back to select mode. And we're going to go into landscape. And we're going to reset it to default. which is 8 by 8, which is way too big for Nargenstal, but that's okay. So I'm just going to hit create. And you can see 8 by 8 is roughly, if I get my conversions right, I think it's like an 8 mile by 8 mile section of the world, which is huge. So I'm going to end up deleting a lot of this after I get Nargenstal built, but we're going to start building dead center with Nargenstal. So to do that, to get started on sculpting, I'm going to have to do a custom material to bring in that image so I have it on my screen. So I'm going to switch to select mode, and I'm going to go ahead and save everything just so I don't lose what I've done. And then I need to go into my content drawer, into my stuff, into my materials. Actually, I need to go into my textures first. And I need to drag in that graphic that I showed you of Nargenstal. Drag it in, let Unreal Engine process it. Come on, give me my content drawer. Thank you. And you'll see now that it is Nargenstal map. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this. Get off my screen. There we go. Rename to texture. I'm just actually going to call it T_Nargenstal_map. That way I know it's a texture and I don't have to worry about getting it confused with materials. Now, to make this into a material that I can apply to my world, I'm going to go into my materials and create a new material by right-clicking. We're going to call this material _ Nargenstal _ map. So I know that that's my beginning document. Then I'm going to save it and go ahead and save everything. Then I'm going to open this up. And you'll see what is used to make a basic material in Unreal Engine. Now, I'm still not a master on this by any means. I'm basically dangerous to a certain extent that I can make basic materials. So we just need a super simple material to do this one. So I'm going to open up my content drawer again. I'm going to bring in my stuff, my texture. I'm going to bring in my texture by just dragging it in. And you'll see the graphic is right there. So now what I need to do is I just need to drag RGB to base color, and boom. You can see over here on the side that it's applied it to the circle. So it's functioning correctly. But you still have to hit apply and save it. Okay, that's all we need to do to get the material ready to work on the landscape we just created. So I'm going to go ahead and dock this up here by just grabbing the tab and bringing it up to the top so I can quickly switch between them. And then I'm going to bring up my landscape details and find the spot where it has landscape material. What we're going to do is go ahead and bring in the material we just made and bring it in. And I can't see my spot where I need to bring it to because, sorry guys, I have things not quite set up the way I want it yet. So it's kind of hard to see some of these things. And we're going to drag it into this block right here because you'll match the green line on the bottom. You can see if I don't do it, you'll see there's a green line on the bottom here. That means it is an actual material that you can apply. And you'll see Unreal Engine applied it. But there's a problem. You can see millions of the Nargenstal maps, which is not what we want. So that means we need to go back to our material, which I have up here. And we are going to put let me open up my notebook just to make sure I have this correct, so I'm not telling you guys false. We are going to do a texture coordinate node, which I can just pull off of here by holding down left click, bring it out here and type in texture coordinate, which is what I want. And that's going to tell it that we're going to be working with a different size than it's used to. Then we're going to bring in what's known as a multiply node to multiply the effects so we could set the actual size of the texture. We are going to put that right about here. And then we are going to put in a constant, which if you hold down 1 and left click, it gives you a 1-point constant, which is just a simple number. And we're going to attach that to B. We're going to unattach this one from UVs, and we're going to attach it to multiply, and then we're going to attach it to UVs, because that will let us change the size of what our image is going to be. So now what we need to do is take this, right click on it, and convert to parameter. So we can set the size of the map, which I can't spell, of map. And then once we get it done, we're going to put a default value of 1, so it actually shows something on there. And then we're going to do slider max. We're going to leave it at, oh, let's go 5,000, just because I don't know what my scale is that I'm going to need yet. I have to set that from the actual scale on the side of it. It's going to be tricky, but we'll figure it out. Okay, so I have that. I have my scaler in. I have my texture, I'm base color. That should be all I need to do. So let's go ahead and apply that. Save it. And switch back. And you're going to see that it is not changing. Let's see. What we need to do, and I'm thinking ahead here, I need to make a material instance, which is basically a copy of my master material, so we can play with it. So let's go material instance, gimme there, create material instance, and this time we're going to call it MI, so I know it's an instance of the actual material we just made. And let me see if we can get this working right. I may have to pause the video and make it work. So let's see. Okay, guys, I'm back, and I figured out what I was doing with my landscape coordinates, landscape texture, sorry. In order to make it larger or smaller, I was going a little bit too aggressive with my changes. I had everything set up correctly. As you can see, I did not change everything. I did not change anything on my setup. I'm just going to make this a little bit smaller and more compact so we can see it a little easier without having to have a massive window. All right, so I have everything exactly the way it was. I'm going to change this to slider minimum. We're going to go -1, and we're going to go to 5. Now, that's not going to make a big difference, but it's just a little bit, less ambiguous, I guess the word is. So everything is set up correctly in my master material. I have it set up in here. We're going to go ahead and, actually, I'm going to delete the material instance since I just edited the master. So we're going to go ahead and delete it. I'm going to force it to delete because it's not going to want to. Force delete. And then we are going to make a new instance because I'm working off the new version of it. And it's going to tell me I need to fix the name because I have the exact same name. All right, there we go. Got it all fixed. And, okay, so we got that set up. And we're going to drag it over to the landscape material. And as you can see, it's ridiculously tiny. This is our little mannequin guy we brought in. And I have him laying flat so I can actually see him versus the scale that I had. So what we need to do is go up here, and I'm going to make this tiny, nope, wrong one. Going to undock it so I can actually see my thing between it. Make this tiny because I don't need a huge thing. Turn on my parameter that I set. And I was working in -1s, -1000s. It's actually -point, or it's got to be point. Come on, give me the entry. 0.25. And it makes it tiny. Nope, 0.325. 0.25. Learn how to type. There we go. So now it's bigger. So now we need to just figure out what scale we need to get it to the right size compared to him. So I was in 0.01. Really hit the right keys. 0.01. Okay. So now we're getting close. I mean, this is ridiculously huge compared to little guy, but this is trying to match the scale that we're working at. So I'm going to try and adjust my screen a little bit so you guys can see it. Okay, there we go. Now, we need to move him just in the slightest to get him lined up. And then, since this is 25 feet and he's about 6 feet tall, we need it to go bigger yet. So we're going to go 0.001 and see what it does. Holy buckets, that's big. Okay, so 0.001 is way too big. So 0.025. No, 0.01. Back to our original. Okay, so 0.015. Nope, 0.01. All right, so I need to just sit here and play with it until I get it set to the right scale. Because I wish there was an easier way to scale this. But if I do the, just slide it, it wants to do in huge numbers. And it really makes a mess of things. So I need to sit here and just play with it until I get it to the size that I want. So anyway, I'm going to pause the video here until I get it set, and then I'll come back. All right, guys, this is Nakara again. I finally figured out the number I needed for my material. What I did is I took 4 of my little guys and stood them on their head, each on their heads, and that gives me roughly 24 feet. Now, the conversion problem comes in between centimeters and feet and all the different conversions. So in order to get the right scale, and this is deceptively simple, you just take 30.48 is the conversion between 5 feet equals 152.4 centimeters, which is what Unreal works in. So the conversion factor there is 30.48 is you have to multiply times 1,000, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it ends up to be a 00348 is what my conversion ended up to be. And it all has to do with the Unreal working in centimeters versus what RPG companies work in feet. So the conversion there is what caused all the issues. So I had to stop and think about it, and then I was trying all these different numbers, and then I went, wait a minute, what if I use the 348? And then it worked out just fine. So, as you can see, my little guys are teeny tiny compared to the size of the world.